Welcome to The Author Show, where we present new authors and books. From fiction to self-help and everything in between, you'll find it all here. To watch the TV version of our program, visit authorswebtv.com. That's authorswebtv.com. And now, let the show begin.
Hello and welcome back to the show. This is your host, Don McCauley. Today we're welcoming the program author Pat Chalfant, and she is the author of Spirit Lights, A Path to Mediumship. Pat was a skeptic who bought a book about Edgar Cayce because of a TV interview with Jess Stearn. Many books plus hours and hours of meditation later, she discovered she was unexpectedly a medium. She then studied mediumship in spiritualist classes, became credentialed as a medium, and now she does readings and teaches the subject worldwide, online and off. The book tells the story of her journey from skepticism to becoming a medium. Pat, how are you?
I'm just fine, thanks.
Let's start with a big question. Tell us about this book, please.
It's a series of stories from real life about how I became a medium and how many of my students have become mediums and friends of mine who are mediums. All those stories are sprinkled throughout what is also a textbook. And you can actually use the book to learn how to do mediumship and at the same time be entertained by the stories.
So who did you write this book for specifically?
I wrote it specifically for people who are anywhere from young adult to adult. I wrote it for people who are, of course, obviously interested in becoming mediums, and also for psychics, because often psychics don't realize that they are becoming mediums. Many of them do, and many of them don't know it's happening when it is. And I wanted to enlighten them as well.
So could you say there's a central message or perhaps an underlying theme that runs throughout the book?
Yes, it definitely is. And it's that we never die. We have eternal life. It's something that is interesting to people in all nations around the world, and something that has always gone on, an activity that has gone on probably forever in countries all over the world.
So if you had to choose, what would you say is the most important idea you're sharing in this book that's really going to add value to the reader's life?
The fact that not only is there no death, but I can prove it. I have loads of stories about that, about real-life people finding out that there are people who were trying to get in touch with them from the other side of life for one reason or another. And I have many, many stories like that. In fact, so many that I'm going to put many of them into a book, another book that will come out shortly. I also, though, worked for 10 years in past life therapy and wrote about it. And so I am convinced from that work that I did that we live before and not before we are living in this present life. And not only that, but that we live many times before. And when you put these things together, you have the message that we live forever.
Now, if you could compare this book with any book out there we might already be familiar with, which book would it be and why?
Well, the John Edwards books, the Edgar Cayce books, especially Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who wrote On Life After Death, who was a doctor and who watched many patients over the course of her working with elderly and children and schizophrenics. She saw them die, and she began to be very interested in the subject of life after death. And she eventually wrote a series of essays, very convincingly tell us about that subject. The title of her book, again, is On Life After Death.
What did you expect in the beginning to get out of these intense spiritual studies?
I did it at the time that I had just finished going through a divorce and a custody battle, and I just desperately needed peace of mind. And I found out about meditation and thought that sounded like something that somebody who was basically still a skeptic could do without being in danger of beginning to actually believe in all this stuff. So I took a meditation course, and that did it for me. I really gained peace of mind through that. Eventually, I really found that I was so interested in the fact that meditation could do such a wonderful job of relaxing someone. And also I saw little lights while I was doing the meditation. And those lights then interested me very much. They kept coming back every time I meditated. Then I began to see those little lights with my eyes open, not in meditation. And those lights have stayed with me all through my life. Eventually I learned that they were thought by the spiritualist to be lights that indicated that there were spirit people around me. That plus the fact that when I started to teach, the first things that people in my classes saw were lights. All of that led me to feel that I should call my book Spirit Lights. And they are a path to mediumship, I feel. But I think spirit lights are also a path to everything in life, because spirit is the fundamental stuff of which life is composed.
Now, were you living an ordinary life during the time all of this was going on?
Yes, I was. I had a job. I had several jobs. I was married. I had children. I was just living a pretty ordinary life outside of the fact that I was also a musician, a singer, an actress, a dancer, and did some work like that in Hollywood at the same time that I was being mother and wife and office worker. It sort of was a little of one thing and a little of another, but it was an ordinary life.
Now, how long did your reading, studying, and spiritual practices go on before you realized you were a medium?
For about 30 years. It took me a long time to reach that point. I can't really explain why it should have taken so long, except that there was certainly inner pushback about becoming a medium. I had no desire to do that. I never expected that I would. I couldn't think of any reason why that would be a good thing to be. And so maybe that was the primary thing that kept it from happening. But I believe that meditation, everyone I think who is working in this field, believes that meditation is the basis for growth into mediumship. It's the basis for past life work. So I think that ultimately the amount of meditation time was a factor in my developing.
Do you feel there was a design for your life, perhaps, from the start that you were unaware of?
Yes, I do. I really have come to believe that because we live after death and we do an interlife kind of thing in which we review our lives and plan what we're going to do in the next one, that I outlined in general at that time what my life was going to consist of. So as I looked back then, later in my life, in the beginning I didn't think that. But as I looked back later in life, I could see very clearly how many of the things that had kept me from doing other things had to have been so that I would eventually become a medium. And the things that I studied, the things I studied and really read a lot in a lot of fields. All of it, really, I can see led to what I have become. But I would never, ever have guessed it. I was in the midst of doing it and couldn't guess that was what was going to happen. So
has this spiritual journey you've been on, has it been easy? Has it been difficult? Did you struggle? No, not at all. It was really, really easy. It may have been lengthy, but it was very easy, and one thing led to another. And that was another part of feeling that there was a design, too, because I found that the pieces of information that I gleaned would fit together and ultimately led to the thing that I am now. Can you imagine anything else that you would rather do? No, I really cannot. Except for singing, but I still do that from time to time and in different ways. I have a songbook now out of the things that I've written, the songs that I've written. Several of them are in a National Spiritualist Association of Churches hymn book too. So music, but basically, I'm extremely happy with what I do. Do you feel there are any elements in the way you view life that makes your readings and teaching different from other mediums? Yes, and people often say to me, how can you see it that way? I try to always bring positive things to people. Even when something disastrous looks like it's about to take place, I find some way of presenting it so that it has features that are positive. I really feel that you must do that. It's an obligation that you have. That's my feeling.
I know other people don't feel that way. And then there are also the past life elements that I am likely to include. In fact, sometimes when I'm reading for people, not often, but sometimes I will see past lives that they've had. And so those two things are particularly the way I am.
If you had to choose, would you say there's any part of this book that you like best?
I love the opening stories. And so I suppose I would have to say that's the part I love best. But I really like all the stories that are sprinkled throughout the book. That's my favorite part.
Now, in your opinion, who should buy this book?
Well, for one thing, of course, anyone who's interested in the psychic or in being a medium, and anyone who may have had some experience, especially with, and wondered why they had strange experiences going on. Anyone who wants inspiration and wants to have their belief in life after death built up.
Well, time is getting very short, so the most important question, where can we buy this book?
The book is for sale on Amazon and also on Barnes & Noble online, and I think B. Dalton maybe. So you can just go online and put the title in, Spirit Lights, A Path to Mediumship, and you will find it. You can also find it by going to my site, www.patchalfant.com, and there is a sort of buy now button there that will take you to the place where you can buy it.
Could you spell your name for us, please?
PATCHALF as in Frank, A-N-T.
This has been just great. Our guest today has been Pat Chalfant, and she is the author of Spirit Lights, A Path to Mediumship. Pat, thanks very much for being with us today.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me.
This is Don McCauley wrapping up another edition of The Author Show. Please share this interview with your family and friends so that they too may have the opportunity to discover our guest and her work. And why not spread the word on social media? We look forward to you joining us next time for another great book and another great author on The Author Show.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. To contact us, call toll-free 1-877-955-8800. That's 877-955-8800. Or visit theauthorshow.com. That's theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.